My name is Jacqueline Wahler, and I'm here to give you my information presentation on lesbian, gay, and queer theory. Queer theory is derived from lesbian and gay studies. To truly understand queer theory, it is helpful to go back and explore Sigmund Freud's theory on sexuality. In 1905, Freud introduced his work entitled 3 Essays on the Theory of Sexuality. According to our text, Freud argues that the notion of sexual desire or pleasure must be divorced from overt genital contact. That quote can be interpreted to mean that one must separate their sexual emotions from their biologically given sexual organs in order to determine the gender with which they truly identify. Freud was not a proponent of homosexuality. He believed that a homosexual person was arrested in his or her sexual development, leading his followers to believe that such a person was incapable of leading a normal life. While he most often argued against homosexuality, feminists and queer theorists looked to the teachings of Freud and his analysis of human sexuality as a stepping stone in opening the dialogue of sex, gender, and what is quote-unquote normal. While homosexual activities had been known of for generations, support by way of gay and lesbian movements in America began to emerge in the 1950s. The first known political action groups were the Mattachine Society of Gay Men and the Daughters of Bilitis, comprised of lesbian women. These groups and their respective publications helped inaugurate a national gay and lesbian rights consciousness. It is the power of Freud to define and characterize psychosexual development that draws contemporary feminist theorists to his work. Therefore, to support either the feminist or queer theory, one must first look at the teachings of Freud and his analysis of human sexuality. It is not always obvious which texts are ripe for queer analysis, especially when it involves children's literature. Many queer theorists have generated queer analyses on works such as Jane Eyre, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and Passing. But must there be a direct homosexual content in the text? One facet to look at when determining if a book can be analyzed under queer theory is its multidimensionality. In other words, the complexity of the piece and the different parts or aspects of the story, as well as the time period within which it was written. What about pieces like Little Lord Fauntleroy? At the time it was written, Little Lord Fauntleroy probably would not have been considered strange or uncommon with his long curly hair, dressed in velvet suits and ruffles. Today, he would almost immediately be labeled as quote-unquote gay. Then you look at a book like Jacqueline Woodson's The House You Pass on the Way, which explores the conflict and confusion of a young girl who is just beginning to realize that she has lesbian tendencies and may in fact be a lesbian. A queer theory analysis of this book assists the reader in not seeing only a quote-unquote lesbian teenager, but the mixed feelings that many young adults may have towards sex, sexuality, and gender. One might ask, is it acceptable to view children's literature through the eyes of a queer theorist? The answer to that is presented eloquently in Donald Hall's Queer Theory. Only in the process of active intellectual and political exchange are those often unspoken norms and lingering prejudices highlighted and, just possibly, altered through the very activity of exchange. In other words, if we don't open up the lines of communication and discuss these things openly and educate people, then we will never get past those prejudices. I'm Jackie Wahler, and that's my presentation. Thank you.